Did you know that Google personalizes many searches by city and Also Ask is the only tool to access live People Also Ask data at city level? Try for free at alsoasked.com.
Tired of SEO guesswork? Quadra's AI agent goes deeper to uncover high-impact optimizations and completes hours of SEO in minutes. Get started now.
I was going to say that SEO with Fat Joe is as peaceful as this, but then the birds are all having fights.
Hello. Lovely to see everyone. So yeah, everything your boss wants to know about AI search. I put this talk together for one very simple, very clear reason. Boop. Boop. Oh, there you go. Hey. Gave away the punchline. Your boss is probably freaking out about generative AI. I talked to loads of people about this, and the very common fact, their bosses are freaking out. It's changing the fabric of SEO and content marketing. And I can say that with some measure of confidence because my boss is freaking out about generative AI. If you find yourself in a similar situation to me, you probably wake up to lots of panicked, slightly incoherent Slack messages at all hours of the night saying things like, Ryan, what is an AI agent? Ryan, what is a DeepSeek? Wow, this AI content stuff is pretty cheap, actually. And Ryan, add more EAT to our content marketing. When you're faced with this kind of, again, slightly incoherent questioning, this sheer panic from your boss, I think there's only one defensible course of action. You have to absolutely drown them in data. Statistics, numbers, data, that is how you sound confident. That is how you sound like you know what you're talking about, even if you don't, like me. So that means compiling as many research reports as possible, as many data studies, as many white papers and technical statistics, and just hammering them around the face with data. And that allows you to have conversations like this, in no way fabricated Slack message. Ryan, we need to optimize for DeepSeek. I can say, you know what? No, we don't, because 80% of referred LLM traffic comes from ChatGPT, so let's just start there instead. And that is the point of my talk today. I want to give you the fodder, the ammunition you need to go back to your boss and say, hey, it's cool, I've got this, I have some statistics to back it up. And speaking of bamboozling people with numbers, this talk is based on entirely Ahrefs proprietary research. We analyzed 140 million domains robot.txt files. We looked at 770,000 web pages, 300,000 SERPs, traffic data from 3,000 real websites, and we even surveyed almost 900 marketers and SEOs to find out how AI is impacting them. And I'd love to say that this was entirely my effort, but this is very much a team effort from all of Ahrefs. We have Louise from our blog team. She's doing some amazing AI research. She's also here, so you can embarrass her if you see her. That would be amazing. Jubeja is our data scientist back in Singapore. If you get a chance to work with a data scientist, I wholeheartedly recommend it. Patrick Stocks helped with a lot of this. If you've been to Brighton before, you probably know who Patrick is. And I'm the dude who basically drew the short straw and had to come and talk to you about it all today. So, first question. So many LLMs out in the world, so many AI chatbots, are they an actual source of traffic? Is this something worth optimizing for? Can we get people back to our websites from these models? We looked at about 3,000 websites and we found that almost 2/3 of them received at least one attributable page view from an LLM, which is actually way, way higher than I thought it would be. I assumed most small websites would not get this kind of visits from them. Almost 2/3 of websites had traffic, with a caveat that it's not a lot of traffic at the moment. It was the median across all of the data set was 0.12% of views came from LLMs and 0.17% of visitors. And this chart shows that the smaller the website is, the greater the impact, the greater the proportion of their total traffic they get from LLMs. Or a nicer way of framing it, LLMs send about as much traffic as Reddit does at the moment. And I think that's a really good point of comparison. In both cases, traffic is a byproduct of all the cool in-platform mentions that are happening in LLMs or on Reddit. and it's not the primary metric we should be optimizing for. And these numbers are basically guaranteed underestimations. This is just attributable referral traffic. Louise actually spotted that Copilot stopped sending referrer information back in October. I think these visits are still happening, but they are not visible in your analytics anymore. So take this number as the baseline. It will be more than that for your website. And if anyone is asking, is SEO dead? Very quick way to refute that is to look at the amount of traffic Google still sends. From the websites we looked at, 41% of all traffic came from Google. So it dwarfs every other channel at the moment. Now, almost all of the referred LLM traffic comes from three chatbots alone. ChatGPT, by far the lion's share, almost 80% of the referred traffic just from ChatGPT, with Perplexity and Gemini a distant second and third. And we were curious to see what types of content actually receive these page views from LLMs. So we did a big study. We looked at two cohorts of traffic from non-AI sources and traffic from AI sources, and looked at the pages they visited. The big differences were LLMs had a massive preference for core site pages. So these are your home page, your about page, your pricing page. My thinking is that these are used as citations, which is why they get so much more traffic from LLMs than other page types. And the other interesting point, documents over here, that dusty PDF you have on your website that gets no traffic from any source, you are much more likely to have traffic from LLMs visit that, because that is imbibed in the training data. That is something that it will actually send traffic to. Now, for the only slightly self-promotional thing I'm going to smuggle into this talk, if you want to actually start tracking AI visibility, we've released a new tool called Brand Radar. It's out now, it's free while it's in beta. But it basically allows you to track the visibility of your brand in AI search, starting with AI overviews. So you can put a brand term in, a topic, your competitors, and you can see the visibility across all the AI overviews, some 22 million I think we have in our index at the moment. And that lets you do really cool stuff like measure share of voice across your AI output. You can see here, topic of marketing tools, absolutely dominated by HubSpot and MailChimp, and poor lonely Pardot not even getting a look in at the moment. And my favorite feature is you can see the actual outputs. You can see the AI overviews, the text, the links that are being cited, to see the context within which your brand is being mentioned. So next topic, AI crawlers. Lots of AI models out there trying to gobble up the internet at the moment. It's a bit of an arms race. Should you block any of these crawlers? We looked at 140 million domains, and probably not is the answer, is my takeaway. GPT-bot, which is OpenAI's, was by far the most blocked AI crawler, but it's also the most active, so that's not massively surprising. I think what's much more interesting, there are three industries that were almost massive anomalies in terms of actually blocking AI bots. They were arts and entertainment, law and government, and books and literature. These are industries that I think have something to lose when their content is imbibed and regurgitated by an LLM. So if you're in one of these industries, maybe there's more benefit to actually blocking some of these crawlers. So Google is getting very good at resolving user intent directly in the SERP. It's worth us understanding, where do these AI overviews actually appear? What are some of the triggers for them? We looked at 158 million search results in the US, and we found that 7.26% of them had an AI overview present. Now, a bit of a caveat for this one. Since the last Google Core update has happened, I think Google has increased the coverage of AI overviews, so I would take this as a minimum. I think this is probably a bit higher now as well. And something I was desperate to find out, how is this impacting clicks? Google is adamant that actually you get more clicks if you're featured in an AI overview. So we tested it. We looked at a massive sample size. We found that clicks from AI overviews have been reduced by 30% over what we would expect if the AI overview was not present. That seems sensible, that seems logical. It's nice to have some data to actually back that discussion up. Now, almost all of the keywords that trigger AI overviews are informational in nature. These appear generally for questions that people have when they're searching information, processes, how-tos, that kind of thing. The queries themselves are generally much longer, much more specific, less competitive, and offer lower traffic than other types of query. They appear for your classic long-tail search queries for the most part. And you can see some data comparing these. So looking at SERPs that have AI overviews and SERPs that don't have them, you can see a much lower median keyword difficulty, much lower search volume, but a much longer median keyword length. So at the moment, AI overviews are very much limited to long-tail queries. And if you're thinking about trying to optimize for some of these, I don't have masses of advice apart from one interesting fact. We looked at the co-occurrence of different search features alongside AI overviews, and two really big things jumped out. So you are much more likely to see an AI overview in the same place as a featured snippet and as a discussion. You can see a graph of the co-occurrence there. And this makes a lot of sense to me. The information that you generally get in a featured snippet is very similar to what you would find in an AI overview. They are both trying to resolve the search intent right there and then. So in the same way that you might optimize for a featured snippet by trying to emulate what's already there, having a contained paragraph with as many entities and topics in as possible, I think a similar thing is a very good idea for AI overviews as well. Now, AI content creation. Should you be using AI to create all of your content? We ran a big research report, again, almost 900 people we surveyed, and I was actually quite shocked by this. 87% of people reported using AI in some capacity for creating their content. I still know lots of writers that are very reticent, very reluctant to use this. That is not what our data showed at all. And I was curious to know how this actually manifested in the real world. How much AI content is actually being created and published? We're in the process of building our own proprietary AI detection model called Bot or Not. It's about to be released, actually. It's going to be added to Site Explorer. And we used it to analyze 770,000 web pages created in January of this year to answer the simple question, how many of these are AI? Now, any sense of like what this might be, right? Low or high? What are we thinking?
I'd say
78.4% came back as having some AI text within them. So, lots of caveats to be made about AI detection. It's not always accurate, but around 3% came back as fully AI generated, no editing, no humanizing, nothing like that. 75% our model flagged as having some kind of AI content. And I was pretty shocked by that until I thought, it's actually kind of hard to avoid generative AI today. It's in Google Docs. It's in Gmail and most mail providers. It's in Grammarly when you correct a typo or a spelling mistake. It's in the content you read and cite in your content. It's in the Slack messages you share at work. It's in the social media posts you write. I think we're barreling towards an era where AI or not AI just doesn't make sense. Everything is going to be tainted by AI to a greater or lesser extent. So how well do these AI content detectors actually work? The data scientists at Href, they shared a wonderful meta-analysis with me. In the literature, an 80+% successful detection rate for the technologies used. In real life, not quite as simple as that. There are quite a few caveats to be aware of when understanding how these tools work and function. They're generally trained on very narrow data sets. If you train a model on like journalism content, it will be great at detecting AI within journalism content, and you give it anything else and it will struggle and it will fail. In a similar vein, it's very good at partial detection. No, not very good at partial detection. If you give it an entire article and say, evaluate this, it can do a good job. Give it fragments of text, it's going to find it much harder to recognize the patterns that it's looking for. And humanizing does work. Anytime you edit something or even use different models to edit the output, you are changing the underlying writing structures that these models look for and detect. So it is much harder to detect if you humanize it. Great example from our machine learning team. They are Singaporean. They speak Singlish, which is a hybrid of Singaporean and English. They generated some really terrible basic ChatGPT Singlish and totally freaked out an early version of their detection model just because it had never seen it before. This happens all the time. So what tools are people actually using for content generation? Again, ChatGPT, by far the most dominant. Almost half of people in our survey said they use ChatGPT, followed by Gemini and followed by Claude. And something that I was curious about with all of this, how many of these tools, how useful are wrappers? So when you buy a tool that uses multiple APIs and adds a bunch of functionality on top, or is it enough to just use, the base GPT models? Almost everybody uses the base LLM models, so you don't need something fancy and sophisticated, at least according to the people we surveyed. And only 4% of people actually publish unedited content. Everybody generally takes the time to edit or manipulate or change up the content they're publishing because of the perceived risks of publishing wholesale one-shot content. Now, that's kind of moot if this content doesn't do anything. So how actually good is AI content? One thing we can say with absolute definition is you can definitely publish more with AI. Across the sample we ran, the median publishing frequency was 42% higher using AI, which translates to 17 articles per month was the median with AI compared to just 12 articles per month without using AI. And if you break that down by company size, it was the smallest companies that saw the largest benefit from using AI. They were able to publish more, while enterprises actually published less while using AI. Part of that is reflective of our data set. There are more small companies than big, but also most of the enterprise companies I know have very important and rigorous legal departments and procedures and processes to go through before publishing AI content, which may explain that. Does it rank? Almost half of people said that AI content ranks at least the same or even better than human content. Only 23% of people thought that human content actually ranked better than AI, which was a bit of a stark wake-up call for somebody that's a human writer. I wanted to corroborate that a little bit with some real-world data, so I actually looked at the organic growth rates of the companies in our data set to see how they differed. And I found that companies that used AI actually grew almost 5% faster over the course of the year because of using AI, or probably because of using AI. I think that's quite easy to explain given the different publishing frequencies we saw. If anything, that maybe speaks to the fact that AI articles are not as effective as an equivalent human article, because I would expect that growth rate to be higher given how many more articles they were publishing each month. The average cost is unsurprisingly much cheaper for AI content, $131 compared to $611, almost 5 times more expensive to use a skilled human being. And something that surprised me, across both groups of people, AI users, non-AI users, they were still spending the same amount of money on content every month. AI wasn't unlocking some crazy new investment or process. It was basically allowing them to do more with the same budget. AI is used largely as a cost-cutting measure. Final and perhaps most important section, how risky is this content? Is Google going to drop the ban hammer on us for publishing AI articles? Very few people actually disclose AI. Despite it being the consensus what people Google says you should do, only 16% of people actually bother to do it. And it was much more common at very small companies and very big companies. I'd imagine big companies have legal teams that say you have to disclose it, and maybe small companies, they're just maybe nicer and maybe slightly more naive than their jaded enterprise counterparts. And this is probably, I would say, maybe the most interesting thing in here. So companies who did not use AI actually reported being more likely to be negatively impacted by a Google update than people using AI. And this is a bit of a difficult question, right? Not many people can say with certainty whether they were impacted by an algorithm update, but what I expected to see was that if you used AI, you'd be more likely to get hit by an update because that's Google's stated purpose with a lot of these. Not the case. At least from our data, this suggests to me that Google is not attempting to or not doing a very good job at penalizing, reducing the ranking of a lot of AI content. And final slide, there is one area where you are more likely to get in trouble for using AI content. You are slightly more likely to get a manual penalty compared to people that don't use AI. So those people not using AI reported a 2.7% rate of getting a manual penalty compared to 3.8% of AI users. Thank you for listening. If you want more context on all these things, you can find it on our blog. So thank you very much.
Demand sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.